This video is going to demonstrate how to throw exceptions, how to catch exceptions, and how to add your own exception class. So over on the right, you can see a simple file that I've written. So we start with the declaration for an unlucky number exception. We'll come back to the details of this exception in just a minute. Then we have a class cow. So this is just going to print out a message when it's constructed, and when it's destructed, it doesn't have any other purpose besides that. Third, we've got a function that's going to actually throw some exceptions. So we're going to print a message as we enter the function, print another message as we exit the function, and then in between, we're going to create an object. And then depending on what number is actually picked, we might throw an exception, one or the other of these two, or none at all, and then return. And then finally, we can go ahead and write our code. So let's go ahead and try to run the pick a number function. And let's just start with the number 5. So we'll go ahead and try this function, print out the message, and then we'll see what actually gets printed out. So we can go ahead and compile the code and run it. And so we get this message from cout, the first number is, so that gets printed first. Then we go into the pick a number function, as we'd expect. Then the cow object is constructed, so the constructor here runs and moo comes out. Then we exit the pick a number function, the cow object gets destroyed. Then finally, the value n is returned from the pick a number function, and so 5 gets printed out to cout. And then our function, and then our program exits. So that's straightforward enough. What happens if we actually hit an exception? So let's try some more code. And then this time, we use the number 6. So we'll print out the second number is, but this time it's going to end up throwing an exception. So we can catch all exceptions by using standard exception. So if we go back up to our unlucky number exception class, this inherits from standard exception. And so that means when we catch an exception, we can catch unlucky number, we'll do that in a minute, or we can catch all exceptions, or everything that inherits from standard exception. And then finally, unlucky number itself has its constructor, so we can give it a message. It's going to save that. And then it has the what function that is going to return the message that we saved in it. OK, here we go. So this is going to throw an exception, and then hopefully we'll be able to catch it here and print that exception out. OK, so let's compile that and go ahead and run it again. We get the same thing that we had for the first exception, and now we've got the second exception as well, or the second number as well. So again, we print out the second number is, we enter the pick a number function, we create the cow object. But now we never actually exit the function, or we never print this exit message. Instead, because 6 mod 2 is 0, we throw an unlucky number exception. And so instead of reaching the end of the function, at this point, the function gets terminated and we unwind the stack. So the cow will still get destroyed, and as the function exits, the destructor will be called. But the function will not exit normally with this message. Then we drop down to the catch block. And again, we can catch all of the exceptions. So it prints out some other error, and then that is not a good number. And again, note that we don't print out 6. We got terminated here before we actually got to use the return value from pick a number. So the number 6 never got returned. The new line didn't get printed either. OK, and as I mentioned before, we don't just have to catch standard exception. We could catch something more specific. So if, for example, I copy here, so we could try a third number and then just catch an unlucky number exception and print that out as well. So again, we can recompile and execute it. And again, we get the third number is, we're entering the pick a number function, the cow is created, it's destroyed, and then we get the message here, specifically for the unlucky number exception. And if other exceptions happen to be thrown inside this function, then say we ran out of memory, we couldn't open a file, something like that, those would not be caught by this particular block, although they would be caught if we caught everything from standard exception. So that's a really quick overview of how to define and throw and catch exceptions. And in the next video, we're going to drill down into some of the nitty-gritty rules for how to do this correctly and safely.